Good evening, everyone. Today I want to share with you the story of a couple who reached out to me for help. A story that reflects how cultural differences, if not understood and managed with care, can create deep emotional wounds in a marriage. Their names are Aiko and Daniel. Aiko is 34 years old, originally from Kyoto, Japan. Daniel is 37, a French interior designer. They have been married for 7 years and live in the beautiful city of Lyon, France. Together they have a 5-year-old son. And at first glance, they might seem like a couple living a dream, a blend of East and West. Tradition and modernity. Two people brought together by love and curiosity for each other's worlds. But beneath this picture-perfect life, their relationship had begun to unravel. When Aiko moved to France, she was enchanted by Daniel's spontaneous and romantic nature, the French way of expressing love, freedom, and individuality. Daniel, in turn, admired Aiko's grace, dedication to family, and the quiet strength she carried from her Japanese upbringing. The early years of their marriage were filled with exploration, learning each other's languages, cuisines, and traditions. But as often happens in cross-cultural marriages, the birth of their son brought to light the deeper, sometimes unspoken values each partner held. Aiko, raised in a traditional Japanese family where harmony, respect for elders, and full-time dedication to children were paramount, believed in structured discipline and the mother being the primary caregiver. Daniel valued independence, equality in parenting roles, and fostering freedom and early autonomy in their child. These differences, once subtle, became sharp and painful as they navigated parenthood together. The breaking point came during what should have been an ordinary family dinner. Aiko, overwhelmed by feeling out of place and worried her son would never understand her roots, proposed moving to Japan for a few years so their son could experience her culture firsthand. Daniel's reaction was immediate and heated. "Aiko," he said, his voice tense, "you're always thinking of Japan. What about our life here? I can't just abandon my work, my life, for a cultural dream of yours." Aiko's face crumpled with pain. "It's not just a dream," she whispered. "It's who I am. Our son needs to know my home, my values." "But you dismiss that as if it's nothing. As if I'm nothing." What began as a conversation spiraled into a storm of accusations and resentment. Daniel confessed feeling pressured and stripped of his role as a father, while Aiko felt invisible, her identity as a Japanese woman slowly erased. That night, Aiko packed a bag and stayed with a friend. Daniel slept beside their confused little boy, who would later ask, "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy look at you anymore?" These words pierced their hearts, a painful reminder that their silent war was hurting not just them but their child. For weeks, they barely spoke. Aiko even drafted divorce papers but couldn't bring herself to file them. The marriage was hanging by a thread. This is when they came to me, sitting in my office. They were not just husband and wife, they were two people standing on opposite shores of a river, unable to reach each other. The real issue wasn't just about where to live or how to raise their son. It was a clash of values, family versus individuality, tradition versus modernity. They lacked the tools to communicate across their cultural divide. Each felt unseen, unheard, and unloved. My role as a counselor was to help them build a bridge, to rediscover empathy, understanding, and a shared vision for their family. In our first sessions, I invited Aiko and Daniel to share stories of their upbringing, their deepest hopes for their son, and the fears that haunted them about losing themselves in this marriage. This exercise revealed not only differences but also common ground. Both wanted their son to grow up feeling loved, secure, and proud of his heritage. Both feared losing connection with him and with each other. Yet years of miscommunication had buried these shared dreams under layers of anger. The first practical solution we worked on was learning to express cultural needs without turning them into accusations. Cross-cultural relationships often falter because one partner feels they must defend their identity while the other feels blamed or rejected. I guided them through communication techniques like using I statements. Aiko shifted from, "You ignore my culture," to, "I feel unseen when we don't share Japanese traditions with our son." Daniel moved from, "You want to take my son away," to, "I'm scared of losing connection with him if we move to Japan." These subtle but powerful changes softened their exchanges, opening space for empathy rather than defensiveness. Next, we tackled the parenting conflict. Instead of asking Daniel to give up his French ideals or Aiko to abandon her Japanese values, we co-created a hybrid approach. They agreed to introduce daily Japanese customs at home, language lessons, traditional meals, and rituals like celebrating Hinamatsuri and Kodomo no Hai. At the same time, Daniel would continue encouraging their son's independence through activities common in France, like letting him walk short distances alone under supervision and making small choices for himself. This blend honored both parents' cultures and gave their child the gift of a bicultural identity. To address Aiko's longing for deeper immersion in her culture, we planned extended summer stays in Japan, allowing their son to bond with his grandparents and experience Kyoto life without disrupting their base in Lyon. Daniel would join part of the time, and they worked out arrangements for his career so that these visits felt like enrichment rather than upheaval. This plan reassured Aiko that her son would know his roots while easing Daniel's fears of losing stability and connection. We also focused on rebuilding emotional intimacy. Cross-cultural conflicts often leave couples feeling like adversaries rather than partners. Through guided exercises, Aiko and Daniel learned to validate each other's feelings without judgment. They began setting aside weekly culture nights, where one evening might feature Japanese tea ceremonies and the next French wine and music. These small rituals reminded them why they fell in love, because they were different yet curious, ready to learn from one another. Slowly, tenderness returned where tension had dominated. A vital piece of therapy involved teaching them conflict resolution tools specific to multicultural relationships. Misinterpretations had fueled many of their fights. For example, Aiko's quietness during arguments, meant as a respectful pause to think, made Daniel feel abandoned. Daniel's assertive tone, common in French debate, felt aggressive to Aiko. We practiced cultural decoding, where they learned to pause and ask, is this silence anger or reflection, or is this tone passion or hostility? This awareness transformed misunderstandings into opportunities for connection. As weeks turned into months, the changes were evident. Their son started speaking Japanese words with delight, calling his grandparents and listening to bedtime stories from Aiko's childhood. Daniel embraced Japanese customs, finding joy in preparing onigiri with his son, while Aiko joined French parenting groups to understand Daniel's perspective better. Family dinners, once battlegrounds, became times of laughter and sharing. Even during disagreements, they now had tools to cool tensions before they erupted into silence or threats of separation. The turning point came when their son drew a picture of their family with Japanese cherry blossoms and French lavender surrounding their home. He told them, "This is where we all belong." That moment crystallized for Aiko and Daniel what therapy had been leading them toward. They didn't need to choose Japan or France, tradition or modernity. Their marriage could be a bridge uniting both, giving their son a rich tapestry of identity woven from love and mutual respect. In my final session with them, I reflected on their journey. They had arrived on the verge of divorce, overwhelmed by cultural conflicts and feeling unseen by each other. Through patience, structured communication, and a willingness to honor both heritages, they rediscovered not only how to be partners but how to be a team for their child. Today, they are stronger, more connected, and excited to show their son that love can transcend borders when nurtured with care and understanding. For anyone listening who may be facing similar struggles in a cross-cultural marriage, remember this: cultural differences are not flaws to be fixed but gifts to be cherished. The path is not always easy, it requires courage to face fears, humility to learn from one another, and intentional steps to build bridges where gaps appear. But when you do, as Aiko and Daniel learned, those differences can become the strongest threads holding your marriage together, creating a legacy of unity and love for generations to come. If you found this video meaningful, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. If you're facing unresolved challenges in your own marriage, we invite you to share your story in the comments below. We read every message, and we hope our words of encouragement will give you the strength to keep going. Even on the hardest days, we're here with you, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next episode.